Hello, my name is Henry, and today I'll be talking about the flute. The history. The flute family is the oldest instrumental family in the woodwind category. The oldest flute dates back to approximately 43,000 years ago, and back then the flutes were made of carved out bones. A flute in the Renaissance period was only a simple cylindrical wooden tube with a few finger holes and an embouchure hole, which is most commonly known today as the mouthpiece. Throughout the course of time, the design and structure of the instrument was gradually modified into what is known today as the flute. The most significant change in the structure of the flute occurred in the 19th century when a German watchmaker and amateur flautist, Theobald Bohm, developed the modern flute. Theobald Bohm contributed to the development of the modern flute by first extending the length of the section above the embouchure hole, as shown in the diagram, altering the sizes and positions of the keys on the flute, and developing the fingering system, which provides the necessary fingerings to play a certain note on the instrument. The cultural significance of flutes. The flute was played a significant role in the history of many cultures. The flute was portrayed as an instrument that was important in ancient indigenous music in countries such as China and Nicaragua. And as shown in the picture below, this is an ancient painting of Chinese musicians playing the flute. The instrument was also a symbol of great importance in many religions and myths. This was especially evident in the ancient Greek mythology, where many stories relate to the instrument. How is sound produced? Sound is produced on the instrument by blowing air into the flute through the embouchure piece. The air is not blown directly into the mouthpiece, but is blown across it. The tube will reflect off a sharp edge, causing air to be enclosed in a tube to vibrate. Different octaves and fingerings can be reached by overblowing or using different fingerings. Overblowing is when a flautist increases the air velocity when blowing into the mouthpiece and transferring the pitch of the note produced into the upper register. The flute requires a great amount of air when playing the instrument, which requires the musician to have a considerable amount of stamina. How is sound amplified? Sound produced through the flute can be amplified by overblowing, as mentioned in the previous slide. Overblowing can be performed by increasing the velocity of air. This can be done by blowing air harder with control. The increase in the velocity of air will result in a subsequent change in the wavelength. This will then determine the harmonic of the sound. So I will play two of the same notes in two different dynamics. One will be piano and one will be in mezzo forte. This was done by overblowing and increasing the velocity of air. How does the pitch change? The fundamental physics of closed air columns can be applied to the flute. A pitch change on the flute can be performed by using different fingerings. The flute differs from other instruments like the didgeridoo because it has keys which can be used to create sound at unique pitches. The opening and closing of the keys affects the length that the air has to travel through. Also, the pitch can be changed by performing a maneuver called rolling in and out. This can be performed by moving the mouthpiece along with the entire flute while playing towards or away from the performer. This gives the performer the opportunity to control the pitch of the note, making it sharp or flat. So this is rolling in and out. And these are two different notes with two different fingerings, showing the change in pitch by changing the fingerings. The tone of the flute. The flute can play higher notes compared to other instruments in the woodwind section. For example, the flute can play up to D in its third octave, D7, while the oboe can only play up to an A6. The ideal tone and playing style of the flute is when it is played with vibrato, which is a forced vibration produced by the performer. This can be compared to a clarinet, which has an ideal tone that is clean and smooth. So vibrato would be played like this, while a clarinet would play without vibrato like this. There are two different types of sets of keys. One is open hole keys, which is used by experienced players because it takes much more skill to perfect the pitch and tone of the notes produced by the instrument. And closed hole keys, used by beginners because it does not require the flautist to cover the whole of the keys being pressed completely in order to resonate the sound. In summary, the flute is one of the earliest known musical instruments and can be dated back to almost 43,000 years ago. The flute requires a great amount of skill in order to play the instrument with a stable tone and pitch. There are multiple methods of changing the volume, pitch, and the tone quality of a note produced through the instrument, and is considered to be one of the most unique instruments in the woodwind section. One reason may be that a note on the flute is played by blowing air across the embouchure hole of the instrument rather than blowing directly through a reed or a double reed. Thank you.